Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the paper one passage that had to do with the Valley of the Ashes. So a lot of you did a good job of describing the Ashmen, which I have circled in red, but you ignored sort of the whole second half of the passage, which had to do with Tom. So what you want to do before you start is look at everything. Maybe you just forgot to turn the page, I'm not really sure. Look at everything and then try to come up with meaning, as opposed to like deriving your meaning from, say, like the first paragraph or the first and second paragraph. So the gray you got, which I have here in red if you want to look at it later. A lot of people miss sort of the death or purgatory imagery, which I have in yellow. So halfway, the idea of halfway between life and death. An invisible track, again, like purgatory, Ghastly Creek coming to rest. The word choice of spade there has to do with, grave diggers and death. And then a halt of at least a minute. That's where I first, was like, maybe this is purgatory. And then that river above, the small foul river where the drawbridge is lit up to let barges through. Passengers just stare and wait is the idea of sort of maybe the river Styx or the place between life and death. One sec, Violet. So then there's a dramatic tone shift, right? Where we finally figure out Nick is with Tom. And all of this forceful diction, I underlined in gray, has to do with Tom. So insisted, turned up, leaving her, sauntering, literally forced, jumped, we're getting off, I want you to meet my girl, determination. And then this happens to be on Sunday afternoon, which could have religious significance. So instead of making your thesis, fairly simple, which a lot of you did, and that's fine because we're practicing, a lot of you had something like, being poor is sad, or the plight of the poor is due to the rich. You want to maybe make it a little bit more subtle. So you could say, poverty is parallel between being stuck between life and death, and then this T.J. Eckleburg symbol in the middle is like God, deciding your fate. But the God in this case has dimmed eyes and many paintless days, so maybe your fate will never be decided, and that's why these men have turned ashy. There's also sort of a gender divide here, where the Ashmen are working, and they're clouded, and they're always running out to try to better their fates, but then Myrtle, in the second passage, let's see, sorry, Violet's messing with my paper. I was curious to see her. I had no desire to meet her, but I did. I went to New York with Tom on the train. We stopped by the Ash Sheep, so she is a member of this Ash crowd. We're getting off. I wanted to meet my girl. So like the Ashmen, she doesn't get a name yet in this passage, but you could do something in your thesis with gender, how men and women deal with this purgatory idea differently. And then you for sure want to address the dramatic tone shift. So there's lots of dramatic, long syntax in the first paragraph. There's this you that Nick addresses that we don't know who it is. Where is it? Let's see. Violet. I can't find it, but it's something like, you notice, blah, blah, blah. But then it goes directly to the action in the second passage. So you can definitely make a gender argument there. So just try to add subtlety to your thesis, so not like rich people are bad and poor people are sad, but something to do with life, death, how genders deal with it differently, tone, God. So just try to add more aspects to your reading. And I know the full novel colored your reading of this, but just you're not going to have read the passages for the real paper one. So try to add as much subtlety as possible and try to mark it up as much as you can before you decide on a thesis. Okay, coming up we'll talk about the fruit passage.